Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Monday night true crime docket from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Hello to everybody who's in the chat. I see Chicago Marie, Afton, Therapist Alicia, Shy Gal, Pammy. Very good to see all of you once again. Hope you had a great weekend. Thank you so much for being with us on a Monday evening. And I also want to say hello to everybody who's watching on X and on Facebook. And if you're there, hello. Please send us a little chat. Let us know that you're out there. Please let us know we're not speaking to an empty room when it comes to X and Facebook. And hello to everybody who's new here. This is Courtroom Confidential. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for about 10 years. I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. And this is Courtroom Confidential, where we do our best to present to you both sides of the courtroom. And this is our Monday evening show, which we are calling our Monday Night True Crime Docket. It is a look at the week ahead and everything that you can expect if you are following the same cases that we are. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate that you're all busy and that you have a lot going on with your lives. Farm Girl, thank you so much for kicking us off with a membership gift. Appreciate that. Johnny Knoxville, good to see you, my friend, also with a membership gift. Appreciate you and your generosity. And Claire has been a member for 3 months, everybody. Congrats to Claire. Says, thank you for answering my question on Sunday. Absolutely. Thank you for asking it. I am not feeling the greatest. I'm going to go ahead and admit that to you. I had a rough night and dealing with a little bit of a stomach bug. So I'm not at the tippity top of my game. So I'm going to just try to get through these things with alacrity, get everybody on with their Monday evening, which just basically means I didn't want to leave you all hanging. I didn't want to send out, we were even thinking about sending out a message just saying, hey, Josh isn't going to make it tonight. But I said, you know what? I'm a big boy. I can handle it. So a lot for us to cover. Some updates from last week regarding Melody Buzzard. There's an ongoing trial with Devin Michaels. Some cases that we haven't talked about in a while. Neha Gupta will be in court next week. Shanna Gardner. So a lot for us to cover, plus many more cases other than the ones I mentioned. Let's go ahead and just jump right into this. First of all, last week, Melody Buzzard. This case, everybody's talking about this case, and it's understandably so because I feel like there's that constant ticking in the back of all of our heads of this clock of when are they going to find this girl? And that every moment that passes by, we all begin to dread the worst. We all begin to fear that something nightmarish took place or that she's in harm's way. And every second that ticks by, we're not able to rescue her. And by we, I mean the community and law enforcement and everything else. So this story, if you're not familiar with it, let me catch you up to it really quick. The beautiful little girl that you're looking at her name is Melody Buzzard. She is 9 years old, and she's been missing since October 9th. She was declared missing or reported missing on October 14th. That was done by her school, not her own mother. Melody lives with her mother. Her name is Ashley. She is 40 years old. The reason why they say she was last seen is she was last seen on surveillance footage. So here's the background. Melody, Ashley and Melody's extended family have not communicated. There are members of that family who have not seen Melody in years. Melody's father passed when she was very young in a motorcycle accident. So she is the sole guardian of Melody. And she is essentially just disassociated from the rest of the family. So they're not reporting her missing. Ashley's not reporting her missing because she's with her, and the school reports are missing. And they go looking for her, and they realize that she is last seen on surveillance footage traveling from where she lives in Lompoc to Nebraska on this road trip. They're able to track it through surveillance and other mechanisms. When Ashley returns to the Santa Barbara area without Melody, she's uncooperative with law enforcement. So now they're in a situation, and this is very interesting because there is no clear crime that's been committed. Taking your daughter on an unplanned road trip, not a crime. Taking your daughter out of school, not necessarily a crime. Could be some sort of truancy thing, but you're not going to go get a felony warrant to arrest somebody for that. She had changed her plates, by the way. They were both wearing disguises in these photographs, and she had changed her license plate on the car. So obviously trying to not be detected. Again, changing the license plates, what is that? Maybe a misdemeanor, maybe a traffic violation. I don't know, but certainly not enough to get an arrest warrant. So police are in this position where they want to know what's going on. Ashley's not telling them, and they don't have any way of putting any pressure on her. That all changed late last week when the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department arrested her for an unrelated incident. And to me, this is a creative and good police work. Their statement was, detectives learned of a recent incident where Ashley prevented a victim from leaving a location against their will, which constitutes false imprisonment. This crime is not connected to the ongoing search for Melody. However, detectives are unable to fully outline the crime as it would impede their ongoing investigation. So, police interviewing a bunch of people, trying to figure out what's going on. Somebody must have reported to them, but that, by the way, Ashley prevented me or somebody else from leaving somewhere. And they go, that's false imprisonment. That's a misdemeanor or perhaps even a felony. That's an arrestable defense. I can go and get an arrest warrant right now and go lock her up. And that, as you're looking at right there, is what they've done. And I can tell you that they're doing this to keep an eye on her, to put pressure on her, and to hopefully try to figure out where Melody is. The one other thing I'll update you on is that the FBI has been assisting in this investigation. And they are considering her an at-risk youth, obviously. And so even they're involved. So crazy, crazy, crazy case. Also late last week, another wild case that we haven't talked about a whole bunch. I think we talked about it first on our True Crime Minutes on our podcast, audio only. But this is a case out of Royal Oak, Michigan, October 24th, just earlier this month. This man here, his name is David Ong. Well, he is the father of a woman named Katie Ong, who has a young daughter. We've been trying to find reports if they say the age of the daughter. 2. Okay, she's a 2-year-old. The mother, Katie here, is out of town, and they have a nanny who stays with them when they go out of town. Her name is Samantha Booth. She's 35 years old. She's been with that family for a while. They have a history with her. They trust her. I will tell you this, as the father of little ones, you don't leave and go on a trip and not leave your little ones with if you can't leave them with relatives, you're leaving them with somebody who you trust a lot. So they trust her. Well, unfortunately, mom cannot get a hold. This is a TikTok that she had posted earlier when she was with the children. She obviously loved them. No signs of any kind of problems. I know where you all think this is going, but just sit tight. It's probably not going in the direction you think it's going. Mom calls babysitter, Samantha, can't get a hold of her several times. Mom starts to get worried. I can just absolutely picture this scenario with Tiffany and I. Mom starts to get worried. So mom calls her father, David Ong. Can you go check on the nanny and the baby? I just can't get a hold of them. He goes. Then she loses contact with him. Can't get a hold of him. He won't answer his phone. Now she's really starting to get upset. What the heck is going on? So she calls her brother-in-law, a man by the name of Douglas Smith. He goes out to the house. What is going on? Why is now nanny and grandfather not answering the phone? When he gets out there, he finds Samantha naked and covered in blood with a bloody screwdriver in her hand. He grabs the baby, the 2-year-old, who is unharmed. She goes after him, Samantha, and he's able to escape and run to a neighbor's house and call 911. But tragically, dad, David Ong, 83 years old, is killed. And they believe that she used the screwdriver to do it. And there's now reports coming out that she has a boyfriend, kind of a long distance boyfriend who she was chatting with earlier that same day. This is just truly, and I hate to kind of use this term because I feel it's overused, but it looks like to be a situation where she truly just snapped and something triggered her, something went off in her head, and she committed this horrific crime. Thank God the 2-year-old was unharmed, but the grandfather, they're now mourning this incredible loss. And she is set to be have a mental evaluation. She's been arrested for first-degree murder, and now they're doing a mental evaluation to figure out what's going on with her. Is she competent to stand trial? So we'll continue to follow that one. That's out of, like I said, Michigan, happening earlier this month. Let me just check if we have any questions. I see that we don't. I'm doing well on my timing, ladies, and I'm also doing well on checking the questions. So this is so nobody yells at me when we're done, because we have like about a 15-minute debrief whenever we do our live streams where I get yelled at by Tiffany and Kaylin, just so you all know. All right, moving on. Today, an ongoing trial out of Las Vegas, Devin Michaels. God, every single one of these is absolutely wild. There's Devin Michaels. Devin is standing trial for first-degree murder for murdering not her husband, but her husband's father, who she also had 2 children with. And already I can see you guys getting out your corkboard yarn and push pins to try to figure out how all these people are connected. This man's name is Jonathan Willett. Devin had 2 children with Jonathan Willett. Then she decided she wasn't really in love with Jonathan. She was in love with his son, Devier Willett. There he is. So it's her stepson. So she marries her own stepson, and her stepson becomes her husband, but he's still her stepson. Doesn't stop being her stepson. For whatever reason, things sour between her and Jonathan, and on August 7th of 2023, it is alleged that she beat him with a stick, then decapitated him, then poured chemicals on his body, and then transported his head from his home to her home, where she disposed of it in a trash can. They can't find the head. Never been able to locate the head. Some interesting testimony came out recently from the medical examiner. It's a little graphic. I'm going to try to be nice. It's, if you're following true crime, you've probably heard worse. But they were talking about, they believe that they were talking about the physical exertion needed in decapitating someone and how difficult that can be. And I love, that's not the wrong term. This is something that I feel goes missed a lot. We talk about, the body was dismembered, or, the person's head was decapitated, or, do you know how the physical undertaking it is to do that? It is difficult, physically difficult. It is not, we're not talking about a butter knife through butter. This is, again, I am risking getting graphic, but you need physical strength to accomplish this. Okay. And the allegations in this case, and time, by the way, doesn't happen quickly. This is not like samurai sword and you're on with your business. The medical examiner believes that both a knife and power saw were used. So she took the time to beat this person, find tools, decapitate him, pour chemicals on him, and then take that head back to her own house, allegedly. She is the other reason that this case made some headlines, and the first reason I heard about it, is that she had actually accepted a plea deal in this previously. She had pled to second-degree murder. And at her sentencing, she broke down in court and started crying, saying, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. And to his credit, the prosecutor stood up and said, Your Honor, I don't think we can do this. We cannot take this plea, or we cannot sentence this person. I think we should allow her to withdraw her plea. And the judge found that, in fact, she did knowingly, voluntarily, intelligently withdraw her plea and allowed her to withdraw her plea and then set it for trial. And I think about this because you see these in all of my years in court, both prosecutor and defense. You'll see this happen. You'll see where, and I'm talking about people with mountains of evidence against them. I remember cases when I was a prosecutor where the guy, we've got DNA, surveillance footage, his own admission, everything. And they take a plea deal. And in that moment they took the plea deal, they realized it was the best thing for them. And then as time goes on and they start to think about it and they start thinking about going to prison and they start talking to other inmates and they start to convince themselves that somehow they got a raw deal and they should go to trial. And then they end up at their sentencing and they go, I want to go to trial. And it's just exhausting. And I've seen defense attorneys have to sit there and talk with them and bring them back into lockup and talk with them some more and bring them back out. And I thought that was one of those situations here. It's sad because I think, she went from a second-degree murder plea, 15 to life or whatever it was, to now she's looking at first-degree murder, likely 25 to life if she ever gets out. If it could be a flat-out life without parole sentence. So that's an interesting one taking place currently in Vegas. You say that. Tisu says, and she was previously married to Robert Baker from the Sementelli trial. Eek. Is this true or is this rumor? We do not do rumor and gossip on Courtroom Confidential. She's yelling at me through the computer saying it's true. All right. Well, we're confirming that here. I hope she has sources. Well, Alicia K. Mayo might be her source. She says, I heard she was once married to Sementelli. Unaliver confirmation. Well, we just apparently confirmed it. She was. Well, all you had to do is tell me that therapist says so. She says she was also his stepdaughter long before marrying him. Like I said, get out the yarn and push pins because I can't figure out how this is going on. When it says that she was, did you say formally married to him or friendly? Married. Wow. Sementelli making the rounds, picking out the, how do you happen to be married or have experiences with two people who've murdered other folks? Anyhow, I guess everybody's got problems. Also taking place this week on Wednesday, McGann will be back in court. I feel like we've been talking about this case forever with very little updates. Well, now we've got some big updates for you, and that's that it's heading to trial. And by all accounts, it is absolutely starting trial on November 18th. So he is accused of murdering his wife. Her name was Nikki Chang Se Lee McCain. She went missing on May 18th of 2024. This is out of Shasta County, California. Didn't find her. Couldn't find her. Finally declares her death or declares her missing a death. In other words, they wait until it's officially ruled as a murder, and then he's arrested in August of 2025. So over a year later, and it's a special circumstance case. The allegations are special circumstances, as you guys know. Forget when we last talked about this, maybe Sunday Fun Day. Special circumstances, what makes a case eligible for the death penalty, but not necessarily that they will pursue the death penalty. But when it's a special circumstance murder, they're looking at life without parole. So that's what he's looking at. And the special circumstance in this case was to prevent her from testifying. He had a pending domestic violence case against him where she was the victim. It's all set to go to trial and she doesn't show up to court and prosecutors have to dismiss it. And they believe that the reason she missed that court date is because he had in fact murdered her. So that's the way that they're getting to a likely life without parole sentence in this case. Trial beginning November 18th. So put that one on your calendars. what is that? Next Tuesday? We'll be following that one. Will it be televised? Maybe that's one that we'll televise. There's not a lot happening right now. Therapist, says, how about somebody enjoy a new Courtroom Confidential membership? And I hope that you do. Thank you so much, Therapist, and Cody in Tennessee, 5 Courtroom Confidential memberships. Very kind of you, Cody. Thank you so much for your support. All right. I think I don't know what this last question is here for. How long can they hold her for that? Do you know which case that was in reference to? Everybody's yelling at me. See, that's a good way of communicating. How long can they hold her for that? It really depends on the bail that they set for her. They could. This is an interesting question. This is a very interesting question, Farm Girl. So we're talking about Ashley Buzzard here. What an interesting name, by the way. She's been arrested, and they're being very cagey about what the circumstances are for the underlying crime. But false imprisonment could be both a misdemeanor and it could be a felony. If it's a misdemeanor, I mean, they could set her bail at a few $1,000, $20,000, $30,000, something like that. If it's a felony, they can set it much higher. And in certain circumstances, they could even make it no bail. So that's the first question to answer. But then the next question to answer is, if it were not for the fact that her 9-year-old is missing, what argument would they have in court to set a very high bail? Because let's say it is a felony. Bail was $100,000. Well, there you go. Ashley Floyd, just answering the question quickly. $100,000, and this kind of gives you an indication, is more than your typical felony bail in California. Felony false imprisonment, $50,000 across the board. So they must have added some extra sprinkles to her case somehow, either through the allegations or the arguments made in court. And I imagine, I'm trying to think right now, what would prevent them from talking about the fact that she has a missing child and is being uncooperative as part of the reason why they feel that she's a flight risk? Like, it might not be something that the judge can take into the, as far as the considerations of that exact case, but when you're trying to evaluate someone holistically as far as a threat to the community and a flight risk, and she's currently got a missing 9-year-old daughter that she refuses to talk to police about, that might be a reason for a judge to up her bail a little bit. So the answer for that is they can keep her as long as it takes for her to post that bail. So if she comes up with that bail, she can get out. But if she can't, then she's going to stay in there till her trial, like anybody else. Pentufel, thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome aboard. Ain't No Hollowback Girl says, is she not required by law to divulge where her child is? Also, very interesting question. Let's start with this. You are not required by law to speak with police. Okay? If police come to your door, and they say, your house is on fire, can we come inside to help put it out? You can say, I don't want to talk to you, and close the door. Like, you don't have, there is no law that compels you to ever speak to the police under any circumstance. So if she's just refusing to speak with them, she's committed no crime. But if they're having conversations with her about the safety and welfare of her child, and she is saying things like, I don't want to talk about that, you might be drifting into child endangerment territory. But it's so difficult at this point. Listen, we all want this to be solved. We all want to save this child, including law enforcement and including, more importantly, the judges. But the judges are the ones that got to sign off on these things. And you come to a judge and you go, we've got a kid that we can't find and the mother won't talk to us. He'll go, okay, great. What else do you got? That's it. Any sounds of foul play? Well, they were wearing a wig and had changed their license plates. Okay. Any signs of blood, any signs of trauma, any signs of prior domestic violence and child abuse, all of that other kind of stuff. And they might just be having a trouble getting a judge to sign because they need warrants, right? That's what they want. And that's why this new arrest is great for them, because they're going to get warrants. They're going to put her in jail. They're going to hold her there for this bail. And they're writing up a ton of warrants right now for her cell phone, for her house, for this, for that, for everything, under the guise of investigating the false imprisonment charge. But lo and behold, we found a bunch of text messages that will help us find the child or let us know what happened to Melody. So interesting question. Thank you for asking that. All right. Let's keep it moving here. We did Tyler McGann. Courtney Clenney. I'm just making sure I got everybody's questions, and I think I kind of did. You remember her. Variously described as an Instagram or OnlyFans model. Still got an active Instagram account, by the way. I didn't realize that until today. She is charged with first-degree murder or actually, I think it's second-degree murder for the stabbing of her boyfriend. His name was Christian Uwunselli. This took place on April 3rd of 2022 in Miami, Florida. Case we've been following closely for a while. It's been dragging on and on, mainly because her defense has been making a bunch of arguments about prosecutorial misconduct. They said that they conducted searches where they shouldn't have been looking, that they came across attorney-client privileged information. They've asked for the DA to be dismissed from the case, on and on and on. And I'm not begrudging them the fight. They're putting on a hell of a fight, but it is delaying her case. And all the while she sits in jail with no bail. Most recently, there was allegations that some evidence had been either lost or destroyed. The police were aware of. They're calling it a young blood violation. We've talked about that before on the channel, that they came across privileged communications. But the big thing that they want is they're trying to put anything in front of this judge that they can argue for what's called a change of circumstances. When you are put in, when you are given, when bail is set on you, okay, if it's no bail or whatever, we'll take the recent case we were talking about, Ashley Buzzard, $100,000 bail. She cannot just go back and say, well, I want to talk about this bail again. Otherwise, that's all that we would spend our times doing in court, is constantly defendant saying, I want to revisit bail. I want to revisit bail. You can only go back if there's been a change in circumstances. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's things like you went to prelim and 5 out of the 10 counts got dismissed by the judge. Well, that's a significant change in circumstance. Things like evidence, evidentiary ruling, kicking out a lot of evidence against the defendant. That's a change in circumstances. So they are trying to say that this prosecutorial accessing of documents that they shouldn't have been allowed to access, and the young blood violation, that, Your Honor, had you been aware of all of that at the time of setting bail, we would have a different bail set here. This is a change of circumstances, and we want bail set. And what they really want is any bail, because she's on no bail right now. And her family is sitting there probably ready to write a check to whatever bail agent to get her out. And that's what they're trying to do. But that hearing will take place this week on Thursday. And trial is expected to begin early next year. So we will continue to follow that one closely. Cody in Tennessee, is young blood the same as Brady? No, but great question. Brady stands for the idea that you have to turn over any kind of exculpatory evidence. So, that can be DNA findings, that can be fingerprint results, that can be anything. You have to turn that over. Also means you have to turn over evidence that may be exculpatory, could be impeachment evidence. And that's why we talk about it a lot when it comes to officers, is that if an officer has some sort of misconduct or allegation in their jacket, we have to turn that over as a prosecution team to the defense, because that could be potential impeachment of that officer. Therefore, you talk about that officer being put on the Brady list. Youngblood is different. Youngblood is a case that stands for the idea of either police negligence or intentionally or for whatever reason, police had exculpatory evidence in their possession and they've now lost it or destroyed it. And that's what they're claiming here, is that a neighbor had gone inside of the apartment where the murder took place and took pictures, and they've lost those photographs that the neighbor took. And the defense is saying those would be incredibly important because it's the first photographs before anybody got there. With these types of arguments, though, you have to, one, prove that it did exist, not that it was potentially existed. And here I think they have a pretty good argument, because you've got the neighbor saying, I took pictures. But then two, you have to prove that it was helpful. And that's where it becomes a little more speculative for the defense. So we'll see what they try to do with this. I don't think they're going to win anything on that hearing. I don't know what kind of remedy they're asking for, if they're asking for the case to get dismissed or what, but it's likely just going to be an opportunity for them to argue new bail. Shanna wants to know, what about the parents? Oops, I lost it. Sorry. I don't know what I did there. I tried to click on it and I lost it. Shanna, I will try to find your question again. Shanna had asked, there we go. Do you know the status of her parents? Have they been released? Are they still facing charges? The answers to both of those are yes, they have been released, and no, they are not still facing charges. They had originally been tied up in all of this because this all came down to a computer or an iCloud account that was, and this is where it gets confusing. The prosecution's argument is that it was his computer. The defense's argument is that it was shared by them. The prosecution was alleging that the defense and the parents were accessing his computer through this iCloud account and trying to access things on his computer and therefore perhaps destroy it, manipulate it, what have you. That had since been dropped, and that's what led to this other kind of mess dealing with, well, what was the prosecution looking at in some of these, in some of their searches? And I will tell you, Shanna, I think they never should have wrapped the parents up in this. That was, you know, keep your eye on the prize. This is a murder case. Keep it a murder case. We don't need to be getting into trying to charge the parents and everything else. All right. I think I've got everything here. All right. Let me just. Oh, here's a good one. Eroy says, are change of circumstances defined by the law? I feel you can make up circumstances if not. Well, they're defined by the law in the sense that they, you know, it's not just a phrase that we throw around. It means that there was something that changed the strength of the case, the arguments regarding, you know, the safety to the public or the risk of flight. Something changed. In other words, what's trying to prevent, Eroy, is, like I said, defendants continually just coming back and saying, I don't want to be here anymore. Can we talk about bail again? You have to have a reason. You have to have something has to have changed. The case changed, the strength of the case, the landscape of the evidence, something else. But there's not some sort of like definition of it per statute. Great question, though. All right. Let's get along here. Another one on Thursday. Neha Gupta. Really sad case, really horrific case, a case that could either be really, either way you look at it, it's horrific, but it could also be evil or a tragic accident. But this woman, 36 years old, was a doctor. She is accused of taking her child, Arya Talathi, age 4 years old, on a trip. Sound familiar? She had driven from, they were originally from Oklahoma. She had driven all the way down to Florida. Again, unplanned trip. They were staying at a Airbnb rental house that had a pool. And her story is she wakes up to tragically find Talathi at the bottom of the pool, dead. And that's how it was originally investigated. Then the medical examiner takes a look at it and says, wait a second, there's no water inside of the lungs or stomach of this 4-year-old. And there is bruising and lacerations to her mouth, which could indicate suffocation. So then it becomes an investigation into, did mom murder her, suffocate her, and then put her in the pool to make it look like an accident? To add to this, mom and father had been in an apparently contentious divorce and custody dispute. And this trip to Florida was done without his knowledge even. So there's a lot of bizarreness surrounding this whole thing. And then there's the bizarre prosecutorial path that this is all taken. She's originally charged with first-degree murder. Then they dismiss that. And they lower it down to aggravated manslaughter. And the defense kind of viewed that as a win. Like, manslaughter is at least in the realm of accident. And at least the prosecution is seeing it that way. Then prosecution comes back and says, we've gotten more information from the, I think it was the medical examiner, and we're now reclassifying this as a second-degree murder. So it went from first degree to manslaughter and back to second-degree murder. She'll be back in court on Thursday. Really tragic case, interesting case. It's going to be a highly, in my view, forensic battle, between experts, because, say what you will about what was she doing down there and why were they with a house with a pool and all of this other kind of stuff. If a medical examiner takes a look at her and says, there's no way this child drowned, done deal, in my view. But if there's somebody who says, no, that's misinterpreted, and this child could have drowned, but we often see this in X, Y, and Z. I know we have some folks who are doctors who sometimes are in the chat. So I'm curious to hear if there's like a emphatic way you would think, just in kind of my elementary view of science and medicine, I would think you would expect the presence of water in a person's lungs or stomach. Let me see if I missed any questions here. All right. Let's keep it going. Friday, Shanna Gardner, case that's been around forever, took place in February of 2022. Shanna, along with her new yet now estranged husband, Mario Fernandez, there they are. Height did not get in the way of this love affair, clearly. They are accused of first-degree special circumstance murder, and they are pursuing the death penalty for the murder of Shanna's previous husband, Jared Brightigan, who is apparently a Microsoft executive in Florida. It was a murder for hire case. So the allegations are that Shanna and Mario hired a man by the name of Henry Tenon to murder Jared Brightigan. And it was done ambush style. The allegations are that Henry put a tire in the middle of the road where they knew that Jared would be driving. When he stopped to remove that object from the road, Tenon gunned him down in front of, by the way, his own 2-year-old daughter. Really, really sad. And a lot of other interesting pieces that put this whole case together. Really, really fascinating case that doesn't seem to get all that much coverage, but we've certainly been covering it to the point that we did a case notes episode on this. So that's, we're going to put up the link to that. Please go check it out. We want to maybe even update it when this thing actually heads to trial, which it's going to be a little bit of a while. I'll tell you about that. But really, her family's got a bunch of money. She's hired a high-priced Jose Baez as her attorney. I really feel like when this one goes to trial, that's going to be a case that a lot of people are going to be following. So we're trying to stay on top of this one. They were able to like track it down to 10 in, and then they get 10 in to flip. And he's now a cooperating witness with the government who's going to testify against them. Really fascinating case that will come back for a status. Like I said, Friday, but it's expected to go to trial in August of next year. So we still got a way to go on that one. I thought I saw here we go. Southern Blaze had asked, isn't that, and this is about a different case, and I think you're talking about Buzzard. Isn't that sort of like arresting Henry Tenen or whatever charges so that you could get him to talk on Shanna Gardner? I think I think that's what took place here. I believe you're right. I think they did arrest him for something other than the murder first. This, by the way, is not like reinventing the wheel. This is a tried and true and long practiced investigatory tactic that they just, you're going to have a much more fruitful conversation with somebody if they're sitting behind bars than you are if they're able to tell you to go screw yourself while they're out. So many times law enforcement will look for anything they can lock somebody up on that will stick and give them enough time so that they can speak to that person and hopefully pressure them a little bit into cooperating. But great question, Southern Blaze. All right, I think I kind of got to most of this. Last one. I'm running out of steam, guys. I apologize. Last one. Also on Friday, Andrew McGann. His hair fits the insanity behind those eyes. He is accused of murdering Clinton and Kristen Brink. Beautiful couple. They've got beautiful kids, and they were out on a summer day in July of this year in Devil's Den Park, State Park in Arkansas, just going for a hike. It's just, these kind of things just stick with you because it's like these people just living, Norman Rockwell type lives, right? You're out taking your kids for a hike. Oh, how sweet. Oh, isn't that nice? Get them some fresh air, take them out in nature. They're your little ones. It's not like you're not strapping up your boots and really going for a hike. You're just going on a nice little nature walk with your kids. And along comes Andrew McGann, who's a former teacher and had apparently just become completely unhinged, but had also planned it. There are elements that he tried to hide his license plate, that he had brought a bag with him with the tools that he needed to commit murder. Happens upon this couple, has no connection to them whatsoever, attacks them. Mom heroically takes the two kids and rushes them off to safety, then even more heroically returns to help her husband, who is fighting this man off in the meantime. And both of them tragically lose their lives. He is facing the death penalty in Arkansas. He's expected in court on Friday. And the last movement on this case was that he had, along the lines of, the kind of the motion du jour, along the lines of Koberger and Mangione and Tyler Robinson, asked that if for any future court appearances, he could appear in court in civilian clothing without restraints. And we are reporting, and we didn't find anybody else reporting. So there you go. Some breaking news here that the judge, in fact, granted that, and that he will be allowed at this court date on Friday, I imagine, to appear in civilian clothing, but without visible restraints. Nobody's going to allow these folks to come into court without any kind of handcuffs. That just has to do with safety and the deputies transporting them more than anything else. But he got that granted. He'll be back in court. And hopefully we'll get some better updates for you guys. But that is what's happening this week. Busy week. Lots going on. Thank you all so much for being here. Let me give you some announcements and then get you out of here. But first, before we do anything, please take a listen to this word from our sponsor. I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but there are reports that over 183 million email passwords have been leaked online, including Gmail. This means that hackers can not only get into your Gmail account, but they could get into any account linked to that account, including shopping sites, banks, and subscriptions, you name it. As someone who uses Gmail every day, I worried, obviously. But then I remembered I'm protected by our sponsor, Aura. Aura provides full digital security so you can feel safe even when leaks like this happen. You get dark web alerts, bank fraud monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance all in one app. Try Aura free for 14 days right now. Just go to aura.com/courtroom confidential. It's free to try, it protects you, and it helps support the show. All right, guys, another thing. Oh, what am I doing there? Another thing I want to tell you about our website. We've been working on the website, lots of updates, including 3 things you should know about: messages, memberships, and merch. First of all, messages. We're doing Sunday Fun Day. We're not doing our regular Wednesday night live, but we're doing something special on Wednesday. But we are back to our regularly scheduled programming on Friday and Sunday. So Sunday Fun Day is coming up. Send us those messages. We love to hear your questions. Love it. We got a couple from folks that were brand new, and I applaud you, and I'm so grateful that you gave it a try, and they asked incredible questions. So if you've been on the fence and hesitant, now's your time. Now's your time to do it. Hit that click that button that says leave a message. And ask us a question. We will answer it on Sunday. Tracy Lynn Mullen says, Josh, thank you so much for coming on for us. No, have a tea, hug the girls, and get to bed. Not going to argue with one word of that, Tracy. Tiffany, start boiling the water. Best Nancy says, hope you feel better soon. Thank you guys so much. I'm hanging on, but I'm doing all right. Also on our website, you will find out about membership. So a lot of gifted memberships tonight. I hope you guys enjoy that. But if you don't want to be left out, click on become a member, and you can find out about all the perks that we have of our membership. And there are perks, a lot of them. We work really hard at it. And then finally, merch. I had to stick around just so everybody could guess what color shirt I'm wearing tonight. We have brand new fall colors, but this isn't one of them. There's the new fall colors. They're all very nice. Same company. Really nice quality. And we have a lot of the old tried and true ones. Alicia K. Mayo says, lawful lavender. Do you even know what this one is, Tiff? She does know. Okay. But we still have the same colors that we did before, but are we announcing which ones we're retiring? We are retiring some. We're trying to make room. We don't want this to just grow out of control. Lilac in Lemonade, Afton, pat yourself on the back for that one. That's pretty good. YouTube Bad Actor says litigious lilac. I like that. I don't know, Tiff. Tell them what it is. While you're doing that, I will tell you guys what you missed this weekend. What you missed, Violet. Oh, well, that's boring. Violet. We got to rename these things. We should just rename all of them. You guys come up with better names. This weekend, we had Sunday Fun Day. Please check that out. It was a really good one. A lot of great questions. Aaron Spencer played a big role in it. And Wendy Adelson. I feel like I should just say that name again and again because people start flocking when you start talking about Wendy Adelson. Brian Koberger. A lot of great questions from all over the globe. So thank you, guys. Check that out. And it's one of those things where you can watch it. You don't have to watch it the day it happens because we're talking about, old stuff, new stuff, everything in between. Tomorrow, not on this channel, but on one of our colleagues, big fan of his, he's big fan of us, Joel Waldman's channel, Surviving the Survivor. I'm going to be on there in the morning, 9:30 p.m., 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, to be talking about the latest in the David case. What is going on with that investigation? Have they figured out what happened to Celeste? All of those types of questions. So go on his channel tomorrow. And I would really love that if you just peppered him with a bunch of juice boxes to the point that he's going, what's going on here? So that'll be tomorrow. And a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, who you guys are going to meet if you show up tomorrow, is also going to be on there. It should be fun. Then on Wednesday, like I said, we're going to be out of town, so no Wednesday night live, but we have a very special treat, and that is a conversation with Nate Eaton. Really great interview. Got into his entire backstory. As it relates to Daybell. Just a fascinating dude, fascinating life he's led. So check that out this Wednesday. It will be a live premiere. We're going to try to convince him to be in the chat at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So please be there. Tiffany has already told me several times it's her favorite interview that we've done so far. So check it out. Then we're back to our regular schedule. Friday, our weekly roundup at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Sunday Fun Day at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And then CrimeCon. CrimeCon's coming up May 29th through 31st of 2026 in Las Vegas. If you want to go, we'll give you 10% off. Enter the word Courtroom, all caps, all one word at checkout, and you can get 10% off. And we would love to see you there. And finally, let me thank some new members. Anne Lien Hoon, Amber Moore, David Morrissey, Nico Skirl, Dog Mama Too Many, Lori Sauber, Abby Avocado, Amy Bruce, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Maddie G, Mama Mia, Karen Grice, Stacy Lynn L, Julie D, Lily Goat, Emily Saloa, Kelly Dalado, Kelly A Daldo, oh boy, Kimberly Oliver, and Nicole the Kiwi. You guys are all fantastic. Thank you so much for becoming a part of our membership. I think you guys will enjoy it. A couple of more things. One, happy birthday to the Marine Corps. November 10th, 250 years ago today. My dad was a Marine, so Semper Fi, and congratulate all of those in your family who might have served in the Corps. And then tomorrow is Veterans Day, so happy Veterans Day, everybody. You're all fantastic. Thank you so much for being here on a Monday with us. Oh, and thank you to Christy J for supporting our mods with coffees. Appreciate that, Christy J. And to Afton, Shy Gal, Kathy, and therapists who you know. We talk about this all the time. Don't know how we would do it without you guys. Thank you so much for being our mods and helping keep everybody happy and in line. Kaylin, for everything that you do. You're fantastic. We couldn't do it without you. And Tiffany, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Now warm up my tea. It's time for me to get to bed. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you later this week. Take care.